Hi everyone, it is me, Dina, D, Long Rock still. I say Long Rock because that is my translation to my last name, and nobody's watching this, but I think for now, it's okay that I use my translation to my last name and not my real last name. I am the creator, I guess you could say, of Paraweird and the Paraweirdo. And I'm also known as the Paraweirdo. And I need to apologize. For the last maybe couple of weeks now, I have not posted anything, and I do apologize for that. So I must explain myself. I have been trying to do something once a week here in this little space that I'm trying to create, this little community. And I spent the last couple of weekends, so last weekend I was feeling really crummy, but then a couple weekends ago I was in California spending time with my kids, and I want to apologize because I just wasn't able to get anything done, but I did do some research while I was there. I just wasn't able to film anything. And then there was another time where I was again in California with my grandkids, and I'm kind of not sorry about it, but I do apologize. But like I said, it's not like anybody's missing me, you know. Maybe someday if this community gets larger, then I will take more time off to do those kinds of things. But in all honesty, I don't think anybody's missing me, so, and that's okay. So I've been doing a lot of thinking. Every week I want to talk about a topic, but I also want to interact with people and you guys, whoever's watching this, and if anybody has any stories that they would like for me to put on here, can do it anonymously. I can give your name. Anybody that wants to contribute, DM me. I am the Paraweirdo at gmail.com. Or you could also use personal growth and change at gmail.com. Either one of those two will work just fine as far as reaching out to me and asking me anything. You can also DM me on Facebook. I am the Paraweirdo on Facebook. On Twitter, I am the Paraweirdo. On YouTube, I'm under the Paraweirdo, but I think my name on there is D Longrock on there. And then, and I think there's a space. And then on True, I am D Longrock, I think. That's so bad, I don't even know. But I think you can find me on Paraweirdo or the Paraweirdo because that's my nickname I think I'm using on True. Anyhow, you can find me. Trust me. So anyway, I've been doing some thinking. And some of the thinking I have been doing is where do I want to go with this? Where do other people that watch my channel, and I know there are some that do. I joke about it that, nobody sees this, but I can see, I know how to do that. And I also have some followers on my blog that people have been reading for years now. And that is happy people are happier. .blogspot.com. And so I know that people are seeing this. It doesn't mean that people can be watching this incognito, is what I'm trying to say. And I totally 100% understand that. I understand that. But at the same time, I want to be able to talk about some of my experiences, and for the longest time I've really been, I don't want to say hesitant, I have just been vigilant about not saying anything. And for those of you who have experienced either para-weird or paranormal kinds of things, you know that not a lot of people talk about it. And the reason why is because if you're not, how do I put this? If you're not super famous and you're not making a lot of money, when you talk about it or when you talk about your experiences, the big reaction is no, you didn't. Oh, and then there's a lot of laughter, and then there's, are you sure? Are you sure? I also got, from a doctor, I got the reaction of, well, maybe you're just having seizures. And then from another doctor I got, well, you are suffering from PTSD, which I have a lot of that, but at the same time, those who have had experiences, they understand what I'm about to say, and that is, unless you have been through it or unless you've had an experience, you really don't understand what that person is going through. And I don't mean that in a mean way. What I'm saying is that when someone does not believe what you are trying to say, or someone that does not believe your story or your experience, you're going to, it can be laughable. And so anyway, I have been thinking a lot about that, and I just want to tell people that I understand both sides of the coin. I understand that there's going to be a lot of people that think I'm crazy, or there's going to be a lot of people that think other people are crazy. So with that being said, I probably am crazy. No, I'm joking. I understand that, but at the same time, we can't discount these people's experiences because you don't know that person. So you can't, it's easy to judge me because I'm putting myself out there. So I get it. It's totally 100% easy to judge me. But at the same time, if you've never experienced what other people have, it's very difficult to put a grasp on things. And so let's just have a lot of love and respect and try to understand. And if you guys want, if you guys have just a story that's not even true that you would like for me to put out here on this, I'm happy to do that too. But I refuse to put anything that is going to be mocking or disparaging other people, because what we perceive is true. And who knows, maybe we're dreaming and we're all going to wake up, or maybe we're all awake and we haven't been through our dream. What is real and what isn't? Sometimes that's a very fine line. So with that being said, I decided, as for my topic for today, I want to do some folklore or legends, you might want to say, that is specific for the area that I live in. And the area that I live in, I'm just going to use the entire state of Utah, because for protection and privacy and stuff, even though I'm on here, I know, I'm weird. But I want to delve into local folklore, local legends, that kind of thing. And I want to expand on that, because it absolutely 100% falls into the para-weird. Maybe paranormal, maybe not paranormal, but it is para-weird in my definition of para-weird. So let's start with this, the Utah folklore. I have my little, do you like my little notebook? This is my notebook now. I was doing all of my notes for shows and that kind of thing in my little planner. But in my planner, I've decided to put the topics that I have, so I can cross-reference to my notebook now. I know, I've moved up. And it's so weird. Yeah, I wrote down everything, but the reason why is because I like to write things still, so I know, I'm a weirdo. Para-weirdo. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about some of the things, the para-weird things that we have here. So cryptids, let's talk about that. So we do have Bigfoot. That's huge. We also have the North Shore Monster. And then we have the Lake Bear Monster, which are they're two different things. And then we have skinwalkers, which they're also in my family, in my culture, my family culture, we call them shapeshifters. In when I was growing up, and when I talked to my mom, we call them shapeshifters. But skinwalkers and shapeshifters are essentially the same thing. Then we have UFO sightings here in Utah. Oops, sorry. Then we have the legend of the petrified forest. We also have voodoo caves in Bear Dam. We have the legend of Lily Gray, the Devil's Highway, which is 666, the Weeping Lady in Logan, Utah, in the cemetery there. Then we also have the Weeping Lady in the Spanish Fork Cemetery. Then we have John Baptiste, and he is also called the Ghost of the Great Salt Lake. There have also been at the Great Salt Lake, and this is very recently, there was a whale carcass that was found there, which is kind of weird. Then there's also some, Native American folklore or things, and so there's a couple of them. One is called the Owl Woman, or the Lechuza. It's the symbol of death. And then there's other witches and that kind of thing. I've also heard in this area of Dogman I know Dogman didn't start here, but there have been sightings of Dogman, Rabbit Man, and depending on who you talk to in Utah, they do call it Sasquatch, but Bigfoot is kind of the most common name that we say here in Utah for that. And then going out to other things in the United States. So for those of you who are watching outside of the United States, we also have other beings: the black-eyed children, the Greys, and the Mogollon monster, goblins, small people. When I mean small people, I mean in the goblin spectrum. I don't mean to be mean about things, but I'm talking like gnomes, fairies, and small people. They're in a different category. So eventually we'll talk about those. We'll also talk about other things that have to do with cryptids, and so there's going to be a lot of that, just so you know. And we're not going to cover it all today. So the couple of topics that I do want to talk about for Utah in specific is the North Shore Monster. The North Shore Monster is called that because you've got the Great Salt Lake in Utah. And typically the North Shore Monster is found in the North Shore region, the northern part of the Great Salt Lake. And so that's why they call it that. It was also, I don't know the Native American name to it, but he is known, or he or it, I call it he. I don't know why. Monsters can be female too, but I don't know. I'm calling it he. I know that he was also seen in, like the Ute and the Utah Ute and Paiute and Shoshone have been seeing this creature in this area long before the white settlers or the settlers came. But even before then, people like what's their names now? Jim Bridger and other well-known mountain men had also seen them. And little interesting fact that Sacagawea, who helped Lewis and Clark's expedition, she was from what is now known as Utah. She was a Utah Ute. Yay! Anyway, I thought that was cool. But so let's go back to the North Shore Monster. The North Shore Monster was first reported sighting was with a man by the name of J.H. McNeil, and he was of Kelton, Box Elder County, Utah. So, I've lived in Utah most of my life. I do not know where Kelton is, but I will tell you, I do know where the North Shore region of the Great Salt Lake is, and that is also in Box Elder. The Great Salt Lake is huge. Literally, it's huge. It's several miles wide and in length. And there's an area called Willard Bay, which is connected to the Great Salt Lake, even though it's more freshwater at the Willard Bay. But in that area, they have the North Shore. Now, Utah, the state of Utah, the Great Salt Lake produces, I don't know how many tons a year of salt for the United States of America, and they were mining salt way, way, way back in the 1800s. And so there was a company, or there is a company, I don't know what their names are now, but the Barnes and Company, the Salt Works, is what it's known here in Utah. The salt workers, the salt works workers, employees, were up at the North Shore, and they had heard this bellowing, awful, awful, awful sound. And apparently, the North Shore monster has the head of a gosh, now I can't talk, of a horse, and the body of a crocodile is basically how they describe this monster. And so the scream or the cry that was heard is quoted as saying and I'm quoting from my sources. Where I got this was on the internet. I went to several sites. I went to like a cryptozoology site. I went to a couple of like the actual article in the Desert News newspaper in the archives there, and so I found that was really interesting as well. But anyway, it was called the most fearsome bellowing noise that they had ever heard, and these workers were on the shore, and it came out of the water and started charging at the workers, and the workers were so frightened with its scream and then with it charging that they all ran up and into the, for lack of better words, the dune areas, and they hid in the bushes and in the like the tall grass area that would be up there. And cattails are also very known up there. It's almost kind of swampy, but there are some areas that it kind of goes up and it almost looks like a dune. And they went and hid there. And they said that it ran up along the bank, and that they were there so long that they had to wait until morning, until the monster had left, so that they can run home. And that was in 1877. There are some people that believe that the monster, that the North Shore monster, is actually a buffalo. But I've seen buffalo, and I've seen buffalo in the wild, and they don't. They pretty much they kind of leave you alone unless you bother them. And I'm not saying that they're not docile, but they're not going to charge at a whole group of men. And I mean, there were buffalo here in the 1800s, but at the same time, plenty of men, especially if they had guns, they would have been able to have, they would have been able to either shoot it and kill it right then and there, or if they would have ran and they would have hidden, the buffalo can still run up in further onto the land. And so, anyway, there's an island. Well, there's several islands in the Great Salt Lake, and one of them is called Antelope Island. And the reason why it's called Antelope Island is because when people were first coming out here, Antelope Island was an actual island, and it had, interesting enough, gazelles on the island, or antelope. And they did some DNA research on these antelopes, and they did find that the DNA matched the DNA of antelopes in Africa, which is just really bizarre. But they have the exact same DNA. They have the exact same DNA making and everything. So, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. That's something that you guys, if you want to look at, it's rather fascinating. But there were a couple of families that decided to move on to Antelope Island and raise their cattle there, and they didn't really bother the antelope, and the antelope really didn't bother them. And so they kind of, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, they were the caretakers to Antelope Island. And there's a lot of fascinating and very interesting stories about Antelope Island too, by the way. But there was a family, maybe two, that had reported seeing a serpent type monster near and on the shore of Antelope Island, which is further south than the North Shore. And I would say it's about maybe 10 miles south of it. It's too deep for people to actually go and swim. But this large serpent type monster, I could see it going all over the Great Salt Lake, actually, to be honest with you. There are ships that are on the Great Salt Lake. They haven't been for a couple of years, but there are large ships that are on the Great Salt Lake that do a lot of brine. And so, you know, I don't know. I could see that happening, but that a lot of people think that the monster that was seen on Antelope Island is also the same monster as the Great Salt. The same monster as the one that had been sighted near or on the shores of Antelope Island. So I didn't use it separate. I didn't put those two monsters separate. I used it as one, because I think that if it's still alive, and it could be, it probably is still in the Great Salt Lake, and I can't foresee it being a lot. I can't see that there would be a lot, especially because of the condition of the Great Salt Lake right now. It's really sad. It's not doing too well there. Anyway, so the next sighting is, so I have written down the Bear Lake Monster, but I want to talk about that another time. And the reason why is because it's another good story. But what I do want to talk about is the next one I want to talk about is Lily Gray, the legend. I'm using that in quotations, and I'll tell you why. But the legend of Lily Gray. So, I live close to a cemetery. I live close to the cemetery that Lily Gray is actually buried in. So yes, I do live in Salt Lake City. And I had heard about Lily Gray a lot. So she was born in the 1800s and she died in the 1900s. And there's not a lot known about her, but she died when she was about anywhere between 40. No, wait. I don't want to. No, she married at about the age of 40 to 46. And she married a man that is not a good person. I believe his name is John Gray. Now, I have a picture that I will post in the comments section, or when I post this, I will also post the picture of Lily Gray, or the tombstone, or her grave, because I go and I visit her. Now, this is the thing with the legend of Lily Gray. So her grave says that she was beat by the beast 666. And like I said, there wasn't a lot known about her. She was born and raised here in Salt Lake City, in the Salt Lake County area. That we do know. And her name is Lily. Now, from the research that I did, so a lot of people, I see that they go and they will light candles and they do things on her grave, and it's to my understanding that a lot of people think that she could have been possessed and all this other kind of stuff. Well, this is what I believe, and I believe this from all of the archives that I read. So, like I said, she got married when she was between 40 and 46 years old. It was her first marriage. Think about back in those days, about 1880s and 1890s, when she was born, that even in the early 1900s, how women and men, please don't get angry at this, but how women were treated back then. Think about this. She was born and raised in an area where families and getting married back in those days, and then, families and getting married, that was like a huge thing. That's what, in the Victorian and even Edwardian days, that's what women did. They got married, they had children. Period. End of story. And even up until the 1950s and even later, if a woman couldn't have a child, it was like, oh, well, what's her problem? And even sometimes people are like that now about women who are not married or never been married, that sort of thing. So when she got married, she married a man that I believe his name is John Gray. He's not a nice guy. I'm sorry. He's not a nice guy. And I do not know where he was born or where he came from, but he found himself here in Salt Lake City. He went to jail, and he was not married. Lily was not his first wife, and it is rumored or even thought that he might even be a bigamist and might have, a bigamist, or is it I don't want to say polygamist because the other women didn't know about them, but he had multiple marriages, and I don't blame the women for divorcing him or calling it quits or whatever, because he found himself in prison, and it was his fault. He did a lot of crimes like armed robbery. He also was a violent person. It is rumored that he probably even killed a couple of people during his like badass days or whatever. So when he got out of prison, he was a little bit older himself, and he met and married Lily. And Lily, she was married to him for quite some time, and then she decided that she wanted to divorce him because he did not treat her well. And then she died. And she died when she was approximately 70 or around there. So, she was married to him for just about something like, 20 something years or something like that. I'm not good at math, but I think that she didn't allow him in the house before he went to prison even, and he just did not treat her well at all. And so when he found himself in prison, or I think they got married after prison, but I think that she was trying to leave him, and her father would not let, or her brother or something would not let him back in the house when she decided that she did not want to be married to him anymore. And they never went through the divorce, but she died before he did. And her grave it says Lily Gray on it, right? But her name was spelt Lily Gray, and he put the spelling Lilly. So he spelled her first name wrong on the grave, on the tombstone. That's the first thing that he did. The second thing that he did was she was born June 5th, and that would have been 6/5, and then, I really should look at my phone and look at, but when you look at the picture, you will see she was born on June 5th. He made it so that she was born on June 6th. And then he also changed the year. And so those two things are just kind of nasty. I'm sorry, but that's you get married, you should at least know how to spell your wife's name, which I'm sure he did. And second of all, you should know when your wife was born. And there's ways to finding that out. And he knew. He's a very, very narcissistic person. And so, anyway, her tombstone, instead of having like roses or lilies, because her name is Lily, or Lily of the Valley on her tombstone, he has on her tombstone rose hips. And I cannot remember the other name for rose hips, type roses, but those are the sign of the devil when you put them on the grave back in those days. I don't know about now, but back in those days when you have flowers on your tombstone, it's very, very specific. And what he did was he decided to make her tombstone with I think it's called dogwood flowers, so rosehip flowers, which is actually the sign of the devil. So that part was very, rude and very disrespectful. The other interesting thing is that she wanted to be buried near her family, and he put her clear on the other side of the cemetery. He put her on the northeastern side of the cemetery, and at the time, now it's northeastern, right? But at the time, it was in the southeastern part of the cemetery, and he was buried at the complete opposite end of where she was buried. And he has on his tombstone is super super large, of course, because he's very narcissistic. He has narcissa flowers on his tombstone. And then of course he had on his tombstone, before he died, he had written out this really nice tribute about him, but then for her he didn't. And and so there's some rumors that say that, well, he hated the government, so he put she fell, what did he write? She fell ill, or fell to the beast, and made it sound like that, and then he put 666 on her grave, on her tombstone. And think about that. If you're a Christian person, or even if you're not Christian, if you have been raised or believe in a higher power, and you believe that 666 is the number of the devil, who would put that on someone's grave unless they said, hey, I want the sign of the devil on my grave, which is totally fine if you do, but why would he do that to her? And people say, oh, that's supposed to mean that, the beast or the 666 has to do with the government. Well, I don't buy that. And I don't buy that because, of course, he wouldn't like the government, because it was the government that put him in prison, but he was supposed to go to prison. I'm sorry, it wasn't like he was thrown in prison and, he was innocent. He was not innocent in what he did to get himself thrown in prison. And so I really, really have a difficult time believing a lot of these rumors that, oh, well, it was Lily. I think that he was a very bitter man, and I think that he was not kind or loving to his wife, and he didn't care what was on her grave or on her tombstone, and I think that he decided that he was going to put a mark on her. And the mark that he put on her grave was putting, succumbed to the beast, or 666, and then to put those other things, and then to make her be born on 6/6, and then to change the spelling of her name. I think that there's just too much of that to say, oh, he has shown up as just this innocent guy that married his wife and lost her, and so that's kind of why I just don't buy that he was this nice man that wanted to have a pretty tombstone for her. So with that being said, I will post the picture of her. I don't have any pictures to post of the North Shore monster, but you can go online. There's a couple of depictions. But no pictures or anything. There's a couple of them that look like that they might be pictures, but given the fact that these employees were out, you know, working for Salt Works, the company, you know, Barnes and Company Salt Works, I'm sure that they didn't have somebody, okay, now you guys sit here, let's pose for 3 hours for this photo. Yeah, that just wouldn't have happened. Anyway, I think that we'll talk about the others, the other cryptids that I have another time. Probably not next week. I want to, all of these cryptids that I found, I kind of want to spread them out a little bit because I think it kind of would be fun and it would give you something to talk about. But I know there's just so much para-weird stuff that we could go on forever. But anyway, thank you for stopping by my little corner of the world here. Like I said, if you want anything read that you have a story about, if it's true, please write. Please let me know that it's true. And if it's fictitious, then also let me know about that. Or if you've had a strange dream, if you have experienced something, or if your family, someone in your family has, let me know. I've got a lot of experiences, so this isn't it. I'll be back again next week. So you guys all have a great week, and thank you for stopping by. Give a like, subscribe if you want. If you don't want, it's all good. Thank you for watching this to the end. Talk to you guys later. Have a good week. Bye.